Hello everybody, this is Graeme, and today I'm going to be looking at a game called Knarr, or Knarr. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. I would have said Knarr, but according to Wikipedia, since it's actually referring to a Norse merchant ship, it's pronounced Knarr. So that's the way I'm going to pronounce it during the review. Now in this game you're going to be taking on the role of getting a band of Vikings together to send them out to unknown destinations to open up trade routes. Now of course having your crew still at home will allow you to collect more resources as they are kind of there working for you. But opening up trade routes to the foreign destinations is definitely the ultimate goal, to get points and to be able to trade as well. Now the gameplay in this one is nice and simple. On your turn, you're either going to play a card into your crew in front of you and collect all the resources from that group of Vikings, or send a group of your Vikings out to the uncharted land. You will unfortunately lose some of those Vikings sent, but you will receive assets in return and hopefully some points from opening up that trade route. Now since this game is played in 30 minutes or less, I'm going to classify it as a filler game. And I'm always on the lookout for good fillers to either start or end the night. You know, those games that are not too difficult, but still give you something to think about. So, will this game bring rewards like an exciting land discovery, or should it just be lost at sea? Let's get it to the table, see how it's played, and we'll come back to my final thoughts on Knarr. So here's Knarr set up for 3 players. The main player board is set in the middle with the player markers for score and reputation markers. The trading lands and the lands of influence cards are shuffled and turn over 3 of each. For the Viking cards, you may have to remove some of them based on player count, but shuffle the rest and lay out 5 under the main board. Now each player gets a ship, 3 silver bracelet tokens, and 3 recruit tokens. Place 1 recruit and 1 silver bracelet token in the spaces on your shipboard. Each player also takes 2 Viking cards of different colors and place them into their crew zone in front of them. Now these starting resources are shown at the bottom of your ship. Each player then draws 3 cards into their hand, and finally, 1 player randomizes the destiny tokens of the players to see who goes first. The goal of the game is to get the most points, and the end of the game is triggered when 1 player reaches or passes 40 points. That round then ends, then the player with the most points is the winner. You're going to get most of your points from exploring the land cards. You'll build up your crew cards in front of you and take an action to send them to one of the land cards to obtain victory points. You can also raise your reputation marker and score victory points on every one of your turns. Now on a player's turn, they will first receive victory points based on where their reputation marker is. At the beginning of the game, it's at 0, but you can get it all the way up to 5, which means you're going to be scoring 5 victory points every turn you take. Then the player will either recruit more Vikings into their crew, or explore the land. When you recruit a Viking, you'll be playing a card from your hand into your crew area. Place the card with the same colored Viking into your crew. If there are no same colored Vikings already, then you just start another column. The column you just added the card to is then activated. You're going to receive assets from all the Vikings in that column. Whenever you receive recruits or silver bracelets, you're going to be adding them to your shipboard, but you can only ever have a maximum of 3 of each. You can also get victory points or reputation points. You then take a card from the matching board symbol column into your hand and replace it from the draw deck. You can always spend 1 recruit, that is, remove it from your boat, back into your personal supply to take any Viking instead. Instead of recruiting a Viking, you can explore. Choose any of the face-up land cards and discard the Vikings from your crew area that match the requirements in the top left corner of that land. Now these requirements will show either a specific colored Vikings, or it just may be symbols where you have to match the color or they have to be different colors. You can always discard recruits from your ship as a substitute for any required Vikings on a 1-to-1 basis. Once the Vikings are discarded, place the land card above your boat and receive the assets listed in the top right of that land. Then reveal a new destination land card from the appropriate deck. Once per turn, either before or after your main action of either recruiting or exploring, you can do trade. When you trade, you're going to get all the assets listed at the top of your boat and the bottom of all the lands you've previously visited. If you discard 1 silver bracelet, you receive everything in the leftmost column. 2 bracelets, you get everything in the first 2 columns, and 3 bracelets, you get everything from all 3 columns. Now this continues until 1 player passes 40 points, then the current round ends, and the player with the most points is the winner. Let's get back to see what I thought about Knarr. On to theme components. I enjoyed the theme in this one. From the little touches like the trading lands and the lands of influence, it shows the difference between opening up trade routes to known lands, which are easier and get you some quick rewards, versus the lands of influence, which take a larger expenditure, but are often greater rewards. Beyond that though, the theme is pretty thin. It's a nice kind of shellac on the game, but really doesn't tie into the mechanisms. So although the theme intrigued me and I appreciated that bit of history at the start of the rules, you kind of quickly moved past that and just got to the gameplay. Now for the components, for the most part, I really liked it. I really liked the art and thought that these Viking cards, to themselves are nice and great. They're nice and big and colorful. and they used something called the color add alphabet for all the cards to help people with color blindness. But for everyone, it just kind of made it more clear what was what. But I do have one issue with the colors, and that's actually with the player colors and the boats. So these are the 4 boats you can get. They don't really look a lot different. And the player colors are white, beige, dark beige, and black. Really? With such colorful cards, these are your player pieces? Now, it doesn't affect gameplay at all beyond kind of remembering which of these blank colors is yours. Now, the rulebook is nice and clear. So really, apart from the player colors, I thought they were really nice components. For the gameplay, this is my kind of filler. You're done in 30 minutes and the game moves quickly, but I enjoyed the main mechanisms. Do I add a Viking to my pile to get those rewards, or is it time to go out and grab one of those lands and deplete your Viking crew? And beyond that, when you're adding Viking to your crew, looking at what cards you're going to be getting back because of that connection there, you're going to be taking the card under the matching symbol on the main board, how much does that weigh into your decision? Now, these are not deep, complex decisions, and I wouldn't expect that in a 30-minute game, but it meant I did have some decisions to be made on almost every turn, which definitely keep me engaged with the game. Now, there were some problems that I had with the game, and mainly they revolved around these guys, the recruits. These wild Vikings, they were, I felt, a little too powerful, and you kind of negated some of the point of building up your crew. You can have a maximum of 3 recruits on your ship, but even the toughest lands only requires 5 Vikings, so be able to replace 3 of them with these recruits kind of diminishes that difficulty. This also meant that at most of my plays, no one really bothered with the trading lands, and especially later on in the game, they don't offer any points, and they were ignored after the first few rounds. I almost wish that there was a restriction on these recruits' use, or maybe they were harder to get. I appreciate that they were there, but the way that they were implemented, I just felt it took a little away from the game for me. Now, beyond that, I did like the reputation track. I had one game where someone went early on heavy on that track, while the rest of us went recruits and early lands of influence and got a substantial amount of points. But then he slowly, since he was getting 4 to 5 points every single turn, he slowly caught up. And once he started to go after the lands, it was kind of a really fun race to finish. And I thought that was great. And that brings me to another piece that I enjoyed about the game. The end game trigger. The game really feels like it ramps up. People are building up their crews, getting rewards. Then it all seems to quickly ramp up, and then that end comes very quickly. When the lands of influence cards are worth, up to 9 points in a 40-point game, that gets people's attention. But then again, it wasn't too quick. I never felt like I wanted more rounds. The game arc seemed to be nice and satisfying. I also really liked the trade action. The silver bracelets are only used to do that trading, and I like that you could do it either before or after your main action. Being able to get those extra rewards or assets was a fun little mechanism that they added. So would I recommend this game? Yes, I would. It's a 30-minute game that had me engaged almost the entire time. I really like the art, and especially those Viking cards. I thoroughly enjoyed the main mechanism. It's definitely easy to teach, play a card or go exploring. But that tension of when to explore versus build your crew was enjoyable because you're always watching what the other people are doing. I thought the game length and the game arc was very satisfying and ended for me just at the right time. I also appreciated that there was more than one way to get those points. That reputation track is easy to ignore early on in the game, but guaranteed points every turn can be beneficial. I also like that there were these artifact cards that can be added to the game to kind of alter up the gameplay a bit. Nothing major, and you add them once you've played the game a couple times, but can be something else you work to on your turn. You can also turn your shipboard over for an advanced side, but honestly, I really didn't see much difference for those advanced sides of the board. My one real negative is those recruits. I just felt that they were too powerful. I felt they made going after the high point cards maybe a little too easy. I feel they needed a little more rules around them, or maybe were harder to obtain, because when you go on an expedition, you can choose which Vikings to get rid of. And people almost always try to keep those Vikings that gave them the recruits, just because of how powerful they were. I'm not sure what the fix is for this, but the way they were for me just kind of brought down the game a little bit for me. I also wish that there was a more asymmetrical play with the advanced sides of the boats. Make them different from each other, or maybe fewer or more spots for recruits and bracelets. Overall, though, I'm going to give this game a 7.5 out of 10 on the Dice Tower seal of approval. I enjoyed all my plays of this game, and I think that there are different rules around those recruits. I think my score would be even a little bit higher. Now, I understand some people are really going to enjoy those recruits and don't think they're overpowered, but for me, they just took that little bit of shine off for the game for me. But that's it for the moment. Until next time, thanks for watching.